Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Hipster Podcast. This is your host, Jamil Hassan, the Crypto Hipster, where I interview founders, entrepreneurs, executives, thought leaders, amazing people all over the world of crypto and blockchain. And today I have another amazing guest. He's coming to us live from Dubai. There are a couple of things going on over there right now that are really exciting. My guest today, he is the founder and the CEO of SSV Labs. His name is Alon Muorch. Alon, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for joining me. Looking forward to a conversation, and I'm excited about it because I think it's going to be really fascinating. So let's talk. Let's kick things off. I'll ask you the first question I ask everybody is this: is what is your background, and is it a logical background for what you're doing now?
Yeah, definitely. I'm a developer. Been so for the past probably 15 years, a bit more than that even. I got into the crypto space more than 10 years ago and dived right into kind of reading the Bitcoin white paper, contributing code to Bitcoin. Then when Ethereum came along, actually helped with one of the first Ethereum clients. And so yeah, my background is very much technical, and the product we're building at SSV is super technical. It's an infrastructure for Ethereum. And so yeah, that led me to definitely be at the right place at the right time.
Awesome. So I want to find out what SSV Network is all about, including what you're calling the based movement.
Right. So SSV is an infrastructural component for Ethereum. We started with a technology called distributed validators, which was originally a research product by the Ethereum Foundation, and to really help decentralize Ethereum validators. Instead of running them on one piece of machine, you can actually distribute them and running them on multiple machines. Those machines can be completely independent, and the protocol synchronizes them, uses a consensus protocol, and actually enables the validator to operate in a distributed way. We brought that to mainnet at the early of 2024, grew quite significantly throughout the last year and a half. We currently are the second largest staking protocol in Ethereum with 100,000 validators. Around 10% of Ethereum is running today on SSV. And so growing and understanding kind of the power, really superpower of Ethereum validators, we came up with this concept called based applications, kind of riffing on base sequencing and all of that. The idea is that based applications are a type of a decentralized application which is based on Ethereum validators. So that type of application is not an EVM application, but rather an application that runs directly on Ethereum validators, and it can be anything. It can be data availability, it can be oracles, bridges, any type of off-chain application you can think of. Even L1s can run as based applications on Ethereum, where the idea is that Ethereum has the most diverse, largest, and really the most amazing validator set on Earth. And we want to repurpose that to actually do more things outside of just the EVM, securing the EVM. And by doing so, we can introduce a whole marketplace of new rewards that validators on Ethereum can have. And that has a lot of secondary and tertiary effects on Ethereum and a lot of positive contribution back to Ethereum.
Got it. So maybe I've collapsed these two things over the years, right? I'm thinking that EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine, and Ethereum validators are on the same system. I didn't see them as
Right.
being two separate things. So could you
So they
help me?
are, so yeah. So the Ethereum state is run by Ethereum validators. So each validator votes on what he thinks the state of Ethereum is. If enough validators do so, they come to a consensus, and then that's the actual state of Ethereum. And so the state of Ethereum only and with it in it the kind of the state of the EVM only really exists as a consensus between a bunch of validators. It doesn't exist anywhere else, right? And so the validators are Ethereum in that sense. If tomorrow you'll swipe it with all of the validators to another set of validators with another software, that Ethereum will be something completely different. And so Ethereum is the validators. for all intents and purposes, as we know and interact with Ethereum.
Got it. Okay. You said the state of Ethereum. I mean, I'm interested to know the state of Ethereum outside of the technology state. Like, I am tuned into some of the Telegram channels, right? And you mentioned
Right.
earlier staking. And a lot of these projects that have been around a while, where the price has been stagnant for quite some time this year, they're infighting. They're infighting about, they think that more Ethereum should be staked. People should buy back the tokens. They should stake Ethereum. People seem to be confused or a little nervous about the state of Ethereum. What is the current status of Ethereum and why so much trepidation?
I think I will divide it into two. And the first part is actually quite easy. Ethereum, the blockchain, has tech supremacy, at least at the size and scale of where it is, right? Um, it's the go-to blockchain. It has a really strong current state of roll-up centric focus of development. And in the future, there's a lot of different milestones and interesting things happening that will solidify Ethereum, the blockchain, as the fastest, most scalable, and with the best user experience. And so Ethereum, the blockchain wins. And you can see that with the number of interactions on L2s and so on and so forth. Ethereum, the token, though, is lagging behind. And I think that it's due for a number of reasons, and the primary one of them is a very simple question: why would somebody, the average Joe, not a crypto guy, not a techie, why would they hold ETH other than just thinking ETH will go up in price? Because if that's the case, then you can apply it to any type of token, right? There's nothing special about it. But what is inherently the reason why you want to hold ETH? And this question is a bit more subtle than it seems, because the straight answer would be, we'll guess, Ethereum is used for gas, and then that's the value. But it's not really the case if you look back at history. The reason why people held Ethereum changed over the years, and each time a vertical or an ecosystem created another reason to hold ETH. So if you go back to the ICO age, the reason why you would want to hold ETH was to participate in ICOs. So it was basically to buy into ICOs. And that was a very powerful driver and a very powerful answer to this simple question. Then we came up with the DeFi summer around 2020, 2021. And the reason why you wanted to hold ETH was to participate and trade in DeFi, right? Provide liquidity. A lot of the counterparty tokens traded against ETH. And so there was like a really good reason to hold ETH. Staking came along like around December 2020, but really hit narrative in 2022 with the merge and everything. And now I'm afraid there's not a really good answer to that question. Like, why would you hold ETH other than just paying fees on Ethereum? And I think that there's it's a point we need to focus as a community, and I'm very vocal about it on Twitter. And I think that the reason should be to secure or provide security outside of just the EVM, or in other words, extend what Ethereum does and capture more value back to ETH. It can be in securing L2s, for example, and capturing more value from those L2s. It can be some with based applications like we're building, where the idea is that you extend Ethereum validators functionality and security to a bunch of different other applications. They pay rewards back to Ethereum holders. And so if you can create this value engine back to Ethereum by providing security outside of the EVM as we know it, and by outside, I mean anything from the L2s, pre-confirmations, basic applications, all of that, then you can really create a very powerful narrative and reason to hold ETH, because the amount of activity on Ethereum enables you to capture a lot of value, something you don't really find anywhere else. And so I think that we need to change the way we prioritize what Ethereum is and what we should be focusing on. The technology is amazing. We should be focusing on the technology, but I think we're now at a point where it's not just the the crypto dudes of the world. You need to convince the broader audience, especially with the current administration in the US, which opens up the door for a lot of different people to join and interact with crypto. They don't understand what decentralization is or what TPS is and all of those terminology. They simply want a really robust infrastructure, which Ethereum is, and they want a good narrative. And I think Ethereum is lacking in the narrative department.
Yeah, I would agree right now. So I like to walk back of the history. I was ICO advisor. I participated in DeFi Summer. NFTs. You didn't mention NFTs, but artists made money for the first time in their lives, which is great. But you're saying that your Ethereum requires really the future of Ethereum requires that narrative, requires really a renaissance, right?
Yeah.
So what does that renaissance look like?
I think this renaissance is the idea that as we scale crypto in general, not Ethereum, Ethereum is the go-to blockchain for all of those new avant-garde, innovative things you can build on from the real world back to crypto. So, we're talking about RWAs, we're talking about trading, we're talking about ETFs already doing both trading and stake, like all of those things coming from the kind of the TradFi, as we like to call it. And just the average Joe wanting to kind of interact with crypto. We need to make sure it's Ethereum that is the one used by as an infrastructure, which I think we're are a really good position there. But we also need to make sure that people want to buy in to the ecosystem by purchasing ETH tokens, and we cannot diverge the two. We cannot have a really successful Ethereum blockchain and a lagging behind ETH token. We can't, because Ethereum will fail otherwise. So we need to get the narrative straight. And I think it comes back to three things. One, and I'm very vocal about it on Twitter with my limited reach. So I think one is, good old PR and marketing. We need people on the ground talking about Ethereum, communicating, educating, et cetera, et cetera. Number two is user experience. We need things like synchronous composability and all of those things, which are highly technical, but are providing a great user experience. And ultimately, we need value capturing back to ETH. And so that's what I think we should be talking about as a community. That's why I went and kind of said that the recent priorities that the EF kind of published are wrong. Those are not the priorities we should have. And again, it obviously I'm very passionate about it. We're actually trying to improve that within SSV, but it is the fate of Ethereum is that, like, if this divergence between ETH the token and ETH the blockchain continues, we'll see much more fear by people to actually use Ethereum.
Okay, so let's take three of those. Let's take those three priorities, right, that you just mentioned, right? How do you achieve what's the best path forward to each of those three?
So PR and marketing, the best way forward is just putting it as one of the priorities. Like, if you go back 2 years ago and from the beginning of Ethereum until 2 years ago, Vitalik was really the face of Ethereum. The genius boy that comes and despite all odds, he's the smartest guy in the world, etc. That was the narrative, and people really believed that. But now it's kind of shifted, both because Ethereum grew up, Vitalik grew up, like things change in that regard. And so we need now to the EF to actually prioritize PR and marketing. We need people when there's a big conference on Wall Street or in Asia, we need people from Ethereum representing Ethereum the same way as other blockchains are doing. It's not beneath us. It's not countercultural. It is what it is. It's communicating, educating about Ethereum. If ultimately you have a big bank always meeting Solana for the first time, you can talk about technology as much as you want, but ultimately you put a face to the technology and they will go with Solana. And so hopefully, thankfully it doesn't happen yet, but I mean, if it does continue, what will happen. So PR and marketing, it's a matter of priority. Number two is user experience, and in that regard, I think we're in a good on the right path. Justin Drake is leading the working force on synchronous composability, which will basically make atomic transactions between L2s and L1 fast as lightning and also atomic, which means that you can trade between, let's say, you want to sell an asset on base and move it away to whatever Arbitrum. You can do that in one transaction, atomic transaction, and pre-confirmations will enable you to do that with sub 100 millisecond confirmation times. Best user experience in the world. If we can reach that in 12 months, we're golden. The value capturing is a bit more difficult because I think that Ethereum, the community, is not ready to talk about the problem of ETH, the token. But I think that we need to prioritize how do we capture value back to ETH with all of the activity that's happening. One is, for example, just charge more for blob space, for transactions, et cetera, et cetera. Second is promote things like based applications, the idea that you can extend if validators, get them to do more, earn more rewards. And those rewards go straight back to Ethereum holders. That's a really good narrative. We need to stop talking about 3% APR on staking. We need to talk about how we extend that without increasing inflation, and that's based applications, basically. And so it's really a matter of focus, I think. The Ethereum Foundation has a lot of weight in the way people decide what to invest in and what to do. And I think they simply need to put their foot down and say, this is important.
Yeah. I think what it might help too, right, is if you see the ETH tokens that are not ETH gain value, and then the community stop infighting and then they support Ethereum.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So this renaissance, let's say it fails. Let's see the continued have divergence between, Ethereum and the blockchain and ETH the price. What does the multi-chain world look like without Ethereum or with a failing Ethereum? Like, how do we achieve a
I'm
multi-chain
not
world?
even considering. I'm very militant about what we should do. It's not a matter of if we should do that. It's a matter of when and how we should do that. There's no way Ethereum is failing. There's no way the most elaborate, decentralized example of open source code is just gonna die into the history of blockchains. It's not the case. Ethereum will win. We just need the more voices saying something is wrong. Let's fix it. It's that simple. Stop treating the Ethereum price as if it's just coincidental that you have ups and you have downs. No, it's not the case. Bitcoin is up, Solana was up, Ethereum is consistently down. It's not 2 or 3 months, it's the past 2 years. We need to consider the effects of that. And it's not beneath us, it's not countercultural to the cyberpunk movement. All is good. We're growing up. We need to grow up with, we are at a point where global adoption of crypto is happening. And we need to adapt. It's not like a small community anymore that you can talk about super technical high level things and people will just read a white paper or 50 page white paper. It's not the case. They're not those types of users, and so it's not beneath us. We need to just take proactive action and do that, and I think we'll be just fine. Ethereum has a lot going for it. We have the best developer ecosystem in the world. We have at the scale Ethereum is at, is the most elaborate, the most risk-taking, the most startup-like tech and developer teams in the world. We have a lot going on for Ethereum. We just need to recognize that there's things that don't go well, and we need to fix them. That's as simple as that.
Yeah, I that makes sense to me. That makes a lot of sense. Because I see, like, right now the loudest communities are the ones getting recognition. Like Bitcoin's price flew up, but Litecoin didn't. Solana's price flew up, but Ethereum didn't. So right now, louder is winning. How do we get people to the question is, how do you get people to recognize the value of the blockchain instead of just loudness, the people that are here? That's
So
what goes back.
I think that I start to see this anger starting to build up in the Twitter space about why the hell is Ethereum lagging behind? And I think people will start to get angry, and that anger is directed in a good direction. Like, people are starting to ask questions. So I think we're starting to realize it's going there. And, by the way, if all of the Ethereans in the world will start yelling, that will be by far the loudest voice in the world. And so maybe we should start doing that. Maybe we should start, you know, shilling a bit our work. It's not beneath us. It's not, again, it's not, it is what it is. Let's be proud of what we're doing. I mean, why can't we? Why can Bitcoin maximalists be proud of a project which is stuck in history for so long, and be super proud about it, for the fact that it still does mining, and it will never change, like as if this is a good thing in software. Like, I never changing my product. Fine, okay, it's not good, but they're super proud about it. And so yeah, let's just be proud. It's not that difficult.
I agree. I agree. So one of the things to be proud about is overcoming challenges, right? So one of the current challenges is staking, right? There's a lot of hacks and bridges and all kinds of stuff. People lose their money left and right, right? What are some of the biggest current challenges with staking, and how can you solve them?
So I think staking came along quite a lot in the past, since it was introduced to Ethereum back in end of 2020. I think one of the actual biggest challenges with staking today is actually in a different kind of direction, which is ETFs. ETFs are really bullish about staking, and that will be very interesting to see what's going to happen there, because it's kind of, you know it's very technical on the one hand, but very straightforward from the financial point of view. It makes a lot of sense, obviously. And so they're struggling to kind of bridge that gap, explain the regulator, what the hell is staking and why they should be doing it, how liquidity works in those scenarios. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge right now in staking. For the average Joe to do staking, I think there's a lot of alternatives. Like, there's a lot of staking pools. If you're technical enough, you can do it on your own. There's things like SSV that provide you the infrastructure. There's a lot of tools, I think, that are there for you to do. And of course, you can, use liquid tokens, and like, there's a lot of ecosystem that was built around it. I think the challenge of staking, other than the ETFs, is to as more Ethereum comes online into staking, APR goes down, and it becomes very marginal to run a business in staking. And so I think that, again, goes back to value capturing. We need to find other ways to repurpose those validators, so that we can bump up the rewards they get, because otherwise it will continue to go down. At some point, it's going to be very marginal to even do staking. And that potentially can lead to a lot of oscillation in the amount of stake, which is not good at all. And so staking should be robust and as flatlined as possible in terms of volatility, and we need to ensure that. So I think those are kind of the challenges we're facing.
Yeah, I'm thinking about how to repurpose what the validator repurposing could be for.
So that's
Uh,
exactly based act. That's exactly that. So we are building a coordination layer for validators. We have 100,000 validators on SSV today. We're building them a coordination layer that they can opt in to based applications that other people are building, and run a piece of software for that based application. It's all based on the actual validators that run. Like, the entity of the validator is on chain, verifiable. You can see the performance, et cetera, et cetera. So you can, as a validator, you can on SSV opt in, run a piece of software for another protocol using your validator as the baseline for security, and then earning extra rewards. And so that's exactly what we're building. It's the repurposing of validators to do more things and earn more rewards. And I think that will be transformational for both of obviously staking, but at the larger scale, Ethereum value, if you will.
got it. So I want to find out. Actually, you have two paths right now. You have the retail community involvement, right? And then you have institutions, and you have more and more institutions are coming in. So as you repurpose these validators, why should that be pitched to institutions as something should be very attractive for them to be able to take on?
Well, for a very simple reason. So if you're an institution, you're always looking for a competitive advantage, right? You want to attract people and capital. The problem, not the problem, but like the characteristics of staking is everyone earns the same. And so if you and your competitors are both doing staking, there's no competitive advantage to neither of you. But if with based applications, you can all of a sudden, because it's like a marketplace, it's a blue ocean of opportunity, you can create different strategies suited for specific targets and users, and then actually create differentiation between you and your competitors. And so from the institutional point of view, it makes a lot of sense because it creates them the opportunity to create uniqueness. And that's exactly what businesses should be doing. And so I think that ultimately institutions will adopt based apps for the simple reason that it enables them to unlock different strategies and different differentiation points which are not currently available.
Got it. So I'm thinking about what kind of strategies would they be? Like, for example, would they be? Could they be?
So you could have, for example, one institution that heavily invests in oracles. Why? Because that's their mandate and that's what they want. And so they are the go-to security provider for oracles, and they participate in every oracle type of based app out there. Another will be AI. One institution says, look, I'm gonna kill it on the AI based applications. All of the AI agents, AI trading bots, all of that can be powered by based apps. I wanna participate in that because that's what I believe in. And so each one of them will create their own strategy in that. Right. Another will be, look, I'm only investing in hardcore infrastructural components for Ethereum, things like pre-confirmations and base sequencing. I only participate in those types of things. And that's going to be another differentiation point. So there's going to be a lot of combinations in those ways that you can, as an institution, but not just an institution, like everyone who runs a validator can create their own strategy of how to maximize, their belief system and their ultimately their rewards they get by participating in different based applications.
I like it. I like that. And people have said over the years that AI is a threat to crypto, and I don't see that now. I see that as they both helping each other enhance each other to help build forward. What do you think?
So I will say that I think AI at this point is like quantum computing, right? Or quantum physics. It's like if you think if you think you understand that, you don't understand it yet. I think that's as big as and complicated. But I will say one thing. If we're talking about AI ultimately being able to transact, I don't think it's going to happen through traditional banking. It's people can't really transact with traditional banking. It's that complicated. So AI will be almost impossible. So I think that in that sense, the permissionless nature of crypto will serve very well, AI agents, for example, or bots or whatever you want to call it, or the next iteration of that, to be able to transact value because they are from the same creed almost, right? AI is software, crypto is software, AI is limitless, crypto is permissionless. So both of those things can work much better than TradFi and centralized non-AI applications. So in that sense, I think there's a lot of complementary value there.
Got it. Got it. It makes sense to me. Um, so, um, yeah. So the next year for Ethereum, then the next year for you guys, you know, um, what do you think is going to happen over this next year?
My goal for the next year is to show the Ethereum ecosystem that based applications are a real thing and create value, and convince everyone that value capturing by ETH holders is paramount to the success of Ethereum.
Got it. Well, that sounds wonderful to me. So I want to thank you very much for your time today. I enjoyed this conversation. It was fun. It was amazing. Thank you. My one last
Thank
question.
you.
My last question is this. It's real simple. How can people find out more information about you, about SSV? How can they start using you guys to build value capture for themselves? How can they do that?
So if you want to learn more about SSV, just go to ssv.network, as simple as possible. We have all the information there. And if you want to hear me personally talking about more about the challenges of Ethereum, what I think Ethereum should be doing, and in generally just boosting morale really in hardships, yeah, just look for me on Twitter. I'm pretty active there.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.